and you have owned the base since 2015, they have no choice but to acquiesce to your wishes and your demands because they don't want to leave office. But the second you turn your back, the second you show a shred, a sliver of vulnerability, you know, Mr. President, they will backstab you. They will do everything they can to undermine your power. So rather than going at Charlamagne the God, why don't you go at them? Why couldn't you say something like, I wish they'd try. It would be a huge mistake.
Donald Trump is at it again. You know, Donald Trump is known for just, going at anybody. He'll say things that's not really presidential. He doesn't take the presidential stance. He'll just totally disrespect you. He called Sleepy Joe a blithering idiot. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. Some of the stuff he says is hilarious. But now he's going at it with Charlamagne the God. And he calls Charlamagne the God low IQ idiot. Buffoon. And Charlamagne, he was on, what's her name? Laura Trump or whatever her name is. But she's the daughter-in-law of Donald J. Trump. And he went on to her show and she asked him, what do you think about Donald Trump's presidency so far? And he said he don't think it's good. And he started talking about the big bill and, just different things that's going on with, in regards to immigration and all the different stuff since Trump has been in office. So as he was rattling off some things, she cut him off and then she went and started to respond and went in, right? And Donald Trump, when he saw this, he really wrote on Twitter, really laid into, what was it called? The Big Beautiful Bill. But he really laid into Charlamagne the God and said a whole bunch of things about his accomplishments since he's been in office, saying that he stopped the conflicts in the Congo. He neutralized Iran. He's claiming he did a lot of things, right? But let's look at what happened when Charlamagne was actually on the show with Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. And let's look at the conversation they had. Check it out.
You've been critical. You've had your bones to pick with President Trump. If you took his name out of it and looked solely at what has happened, the policies and the things that have changed around the world and in our country over the first 6 months, how do you rate his presidency so far?
I wouldn't give it a good rating.
Why not?
Simply because, the least of us are still being impacted the worst. Like when you look at something like, the Big Beautiful Bill, that's something that, I'm going to benefit from because of the tax bracket that I'm in. But, there's going to be so many people that's hurt by that bill. And, anything that, takes away Medicaid from people and is going to put people in a worse financial situation than, they were previously in, I'm not for. And, he ran on that. Like, he ran on, the economy. He ran on saying that, grocery prices were going to be down and,
That has happened.
No.
Inflation is trending down. And by the way, Medicaid, we want to make sure that people who are not actual recipients or shouldn't be getting Medicaid are off of Medicaid so it can actually benefit more people. There is good stuff in that bill, though. You have the 2017 tax cuts that are made permanent, and that really is for everybody.
For who, though?
But that's for everyone. Everyone in this country is impacted by that. You also have things, by the way, like money going to school choice for parents all across this country. There is a lot of good that I think will come out of the Big Beautiful Bill. But what about things like...
Right now, people are hurting. And, he campaigned on immediate change, day one change.
And you don't think you felt any change? People are...
So, they were talking about Medicaid, grocery prices being down. I don't see no grocery prices being down. I see the economy all jacked up. People don't have no money nowhere. Right? People not spending money out like they used to. You go into the restaurants, a lot of the restaurants are empty. Like, people are, saving their coins right now to pay bills, right? They're talking about Medicaid, and she was saying that they want to get a lot of people off of Medicaid that was getting it, that shouldn't be getting it, so they can save the American people money, right? So Charlamagne was saying, what's going to benefit me because I'm in a different tax bracket, but those that's not in my tax bracket is not going to benefit, right? So they were going back and forth. But then he ended up making Trump the donkey of the day because Trump responded to him. And when Trump responded to him, Charlamagne, he responded back to him, on the Breakfast Club, and it went something like this.
Donkey of the day for Monday, August 4th goes to President Donald J. Trump. Now, if you haven't heard, I was on Laura Trump's show, My View, on Fox this past weekend. Drop one of the clues bombs for Laura Trump. She's been a guest on Breakfast Club before, so I had no problem showing up to her program. I'm one of those silly rabbits who still believes in the First Amendment, okay, freedom of speech. Thankfully, Laura is a Trump who still believes in freedom of speech because her father-in-law, the 47th president of the United States of America, did not take too kindly to some things I had to say. Where is the lie? Trump's big, beautiful bill is going to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Okay, the other issue I said on my view with Laura's Trump is I believe traditional conservatives are quietly staging a political coup to take their party back from MAGA. I explained this to y'all a couple of weeks ago. Traditional conservatives are going to take the Republican Party back. I think there's a political coup going on right now in the Republican Party that people aren't paying attention to. This Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. It's a conspiracy theory I have. It just feels like traditional conservatives who lost the party to Trump could use this opportunity to get it back because the MAGA base wouldn't be upset at all if they impeached Trump and voted to remove him because he's in the Epstein files. Trump didn't like any of that, so he replied with a long on Truth Social.
The very wonderful and talented Laura Trump, whose show is a big rating success, put racist sleazebag Charlamagne the God. Why is he allowed to use the word God when describing himself? Can anyone imagine the uproar there would be if I used that nickname?
Go study your lessons.
He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I've done. Like just ending 5 wars, including a 31-year bloodbath between Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, where 7 million people have died and there was no end in sight. He did not know that. Or India and Pakistan, or wiping out Iran's nuclear capabilities, or closing the horrendous open border, or creating the greatest economy where prices and inflation have come way down, and where stupid and corrupt Joe Biden set the record for doing the worst job as president ever. But this dope Charlamagne would vote for Sleepy Joe or Kamala? ? Remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead, and now it's the hottest, and he capitalized hottest, country anywhere in the world. MAGA.
Now, the personal insults, I don't care. He called me a sleazebag. I looked up the definition of sleazebag. Says it's a disgusting or despicable person. Depending on who you ask, that may apply to me. Okay, I personally prefer friendly neighborhood a-hole. Now, let's get to your claims. He said, I don't know anything about him ending 5 wars. Mr. President, nobody knew that. Because it's not true. All right. There is zero evidence, nothing credible whatsoever that says President Trump played any role in ending the ongoing, keyword, ongoing conflict in the eastern DRC or in Rwanda. Okay. America has not brokered any major peace deal between the DRC and Rwanda during Trump's second term. And wiping out Iran's nuclear capabilities, you did pull off a significant strike, but it didn't eliminate Iran's nuclear capability. Saying you wiped it out is an overstatement because according to reports, no enrichment facility was destroyed and Iran's nuclear threat is still very active, and some experts argue it's more dangerous now due to a lack of international oversight and the increased beef with Israel and the USA. Now, you also claim the borders were closed. Not closed, but you have tightened immigration policies and increased enforcement. You have definitely made the border harder to cross, but saying it's closed is false and ignores everyone coming over seeking legal asylum. By the way, I want border security. I just want you to keep your promise of deporting illegals and criminals. But since Homeland Security started to work to deport more people, okay, immigrants with legal status or no criminal history are being detained and deported too. That's not right. Okay, your family is always in fear.
Whose family you talking about?
Okay, all right. Listen, my fellow Americans. Listen, listen. My fellow Americans, we are in a strange time right now. A time we have never seen because authoritarian strategy is being used against anyone who speaks out against this administration. But that, along with his reaction to what I said on Laura Trump, shows how authoritarians will attempt to bully people into pushing false narratives.
There may be some truth to what Charlamagne the God is saying, because a lot of Republicans had a real bad taste in their mouth with Donald Trump after the January 6th situation, right? When they started to storm all those federal buildings like that, and people were unalive. So a lot of people feel as though Trump is not presidential, and they want to take this party back from the MAGA, the low tier W folks, right? They want to keep it up there with them, the elites, and the elites don't feel like they have a voice right now. The elites don't feel like they actually running the building right now. A lot of these elite W folks don't like MAGA, right? They don't like what MAGA represent. They want to be running the show, right? But Stephen A. Smith, he saw this, and he went on his show, and he had some choice words for Trump and some questions for Trump, and he was asking, was Charlamagne all the way wrong in his assessment? And Stephen said this.
Bit sensitive there, Mr. President. Why so sensitive? For what? And if you're going to have a problem with what Charlamagne said, shouldn't it be a problem with your base? It's not Charlamagne that's out there going off over the Jeffrey Epstein files. That would be Steve Bannon. That would be Tucker Carlson. That would be Candace Owens and various others, including some members of the GOP, I believe, including Lindsey Graham. And the guy Tillis, Senator Tillis, if I remember correctly, along with various others. You've had Republicans out there on Capitol Hill, votes that you need in order you needed them in order to get the big beautiful bill passed. You'll need them for future legislation you're willing to push forward on the American people. The GOP is the one. Some members of the GOP are the ones speaking against you. And I don't think it's far-fetched what Charlamagne the God was saying at all. I don't think it will work. I disagree with him that it will work. But I think he's right on the money about what their intentions are. You yourself notice, Mr. President, they only cater to you because they have no choice. They didn't want you in office in 2020. They were ready to turn against you then. They wanted to reclaim power. We know how you feel about Mitch McConnell. While he's on his way out of office, why you feel that way? Because you thought he wasn't the biggest supporter of you? Now, back in 2016, remember little hands? Marco Rubio, that's how you disrespect him. Remember how you talked about Ted Cruz's wife? Remember how insulting and denigrating you were to other Republican candidates? Now, it's politics, so bygones are bygones are bygones. So I'm not bringing that up to engage in revisionist history. I'm simply saying anything goes in politics. And the flip side to it is that, hey, because it's you, and you have owned the base since 2015, they have no choice but to acquiesce to your wishes and your demands because they don't want to leave office. But the second you turn your back, the second you show a shred, a sliver of vulnerability, you know, Mr. President, they will backstab you. They will do everything they can to undermine your power. So rather than going at Charlamagne the God, why don't you go at them? Why couldn't you say something like, I wish they'd try? It would be a huge mistake.
I'll say this. I'm not for neither party. I went with the Democrats where they was ushering in all of this stuff with the letter crew, right? And allowing all this stuff to go on inside the schools, the bathrooms, everything. I definitely wasn't with that. I wasn't with their immigration situation where they was bringing in all these immigrants and dumping them into our communities, right? And all of a sudden finding money and allocating resources to these people that they didn't have for our communities, right? All of a sudden you have them for these illegals. And we're watching the Democratic Party bringing all these groups and give them rights so they can replace us as a voting bloc and make us a permanent underclass. They're doing it right in front of our face, right? The Republicans, a lot of them, listen, you already know what they are. And they tell it to you to your face. We ain't doing nothing for you. We ain't giving you nothing, man. You got to get it how you live, man. That's how the Republicans do you. The Democrats put their arm around you and make you think that they're your friend while they jamming something in your back at the same time. That's how they do it. They're like they're your friend, and then years later, you being gentrified out of the communities that you live in. That's how they do you, right? Right? Whereas though the Republicans will tell you, we ain't got nothing for you. So as black people, we got to figure it out on our own anyway. Charlamagne always going on to these shows with these people having these conversations. But y'all remember when Joe Biden was on Charlamagne's and he was like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black? Y'all remember all that kind of stuff? So I don't know, man. It's just like a lot. It's just a lot. But Donald Trump is a character. In a lot of instances, nobody pays Donald Trump any mind, man. Donald Trump say stuff that just make you laugh, right? Because he just say off the wall stuff that you're not used to presidents saying. But the thing is, I'm glad that he says that because he's up front with it. And he's going to tell you how he feel up front. He don't like you, he don't like you. And that's just what it is, right? I like my racism to be right up in my face and honest with me. Don't act like you my friend while at the same time be trying to harm me. So that's just the way it goes. But y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about this situation with Charlamagne the God and President Trump, right? And I tell you what, though, this is a good publicity for the Breakfast Club and Charlamagne. But let me know what y'all feel about this. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Until next time, peace.